Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
And we're back again. This is Corey Boatwright. Welcome, welcome. I am the founder of Real Estate Investing Profits and your host today on Profit Masters podcast series. How you doing? I hope you're having a fun and productive day, and wherever you are listening to this podcast, I hope it is going to serve you in a big way. Today, we have Mr. Mike Hambright. Now, Mike is someone that is really, he's someone that you got to watch out for. He is growing leaps and bounds in his site called Flipnerd. Now, you might have already listed some of your properties on Flipnerd. If not, I recommend you go check it out. You can actually start listing your properties right away for free. Yes, I said for free. And you can start getting these buyers looking at your properties that you probably aren't getting them in front of right now. So word on the street is you're actually getting higher prices when you flip, when you put the properties on Flipnerd. So pretty cool. And I think you're going to really enjoy this interview. Now, before we get started, I want to remind you to go ahead and text right now 38470 or the word profit to get your free real estate investing quick start guide. Okay. It's my gift to you, and I hope that you enjoy it. We've had a lot of people say good things about it. So I hope you use it. And let's go ahead and get on with this interview. Mike is someone that really, he's got involved with the HomeVestors franchise, and he has been a part of something that is, I'm telling you, like coast to coast. HomeVestors right now has purchased over 57,000 houses. Okay, so that makes him by far the largest home buying company in America. And he mentors over 60 franchisees across the country. So make sure you're tuning in to listen closely on this interview. And I will talk to you on the next one. Here we go. All right, what is going on, Mike?
I'm great, Corey. How are you doing? Glad to be here.
Doing well. Now, you're calling in from Texas? I'm
in Dallas. That's right.
Big D. Big D.
Yeah.
Do you ever, what's your favorite restaurant out there?
My favorite restaurant? Oh, man, that wasn't on your list of questions.
It's audible.
That changes periodically. There's a Mexican place that we go to quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's called Agave Azul in Carrollton, Texas.
Carrollton?
Yeah.
Cool.
When next time you come down, let me know and I'll take you there.
All right. No, that's good. Well, I actually, you and I are in the same mastermind, Collective Genius Mastermind. Many of the guests that are on here, as you know, have been inside that mastermind. I know you have a podcast show that's awesome, and at Flipnerd, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a bit. But a lot of the guests on your show also in the Collective Genius, it's a fantastic mastermind. One of the places that you and I met, and I know you have a pretty incredible real estate empire that it's taken a while to build up, but now that you are there, I'd like to take a little bit of time for our listeners, explain who you are and a little bit about what your real estate expertise is right now.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Mike Hambright. I run a site called Flipnerd.com, have a podcast like Corey said. But I started out, the funny thing is if I go back literally about 7 years ago, almost to the month, I had never bought a house in my life, other than the one house that my wife and I lived in. So, and I guess in that time, in the first 5 years we were in this business, we probably bought about 300 houses, my wife and I, in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Gotcha. And so, in the past couple of years,
under you, or did you buy that as under the franchise with the HomeVestors?
Yeah, so I am a HomeVestors franchisee that we buy ugly houses, folks, and that's how we started. We bought a franchise. We're still franchisees today, and you'll kind of hear me talk about this as we go by here. That as you know, a lot of people after you're in the business, things get bolted on, you would kind of expand into other directions, whether it's lending or property management or other things like that. And so that's kind of what has happened. I went from never buying a house to having multiple companies that are all kind of integrated somehow.
Right.
Yeah. So, I would say it's funny. Well, I'll kind of talk about having the show and interviewing so many people that when you say your area of expertise, even though I guess on most people would say, you're an expert, you bought hundreds of houses, right? But I kind of realize every day when I talk to people like you and a lot of other people that, man, I'm not really an expert in very many things if I am, So I would say, we've always tended to rehab primarily. So, of that 300 houses, we have about 40 rental properties that most of them we actually bought, I would say, 3+ years ago. So we bought them like prime time. They're just, fantastic rentals, and we haven't really added a lot. We bought a house today that we may actually add to that portfolio. We haven't added a lot because we just haven't been able to buy them quite as well as what we were able to buy like 3 to 5 years ago. And
sure.
And so, but I would say, of those properties, probably 2/3 of them were retail or rehab deals, and maybe a third were wholesale or assignment type deals. So I would say, for the most part, I'm pretty proficient at rehabbing, and that's always been kind of even though it's the most painful way to make money in real estate investing, it's always been probably my first love, just because I really love the transformation. Gotcha. And we tended to make the most money doing it too, so that didn't hurt. But
okay, so fix and flip,
yep,
or even buy and hold, really. I mean,
sure, yep.
So what made you want to get involved with real estate investing?
Yeah, I would say that I'd always had an interest in real estate investing for some reason, even though I had no experience. I mean, from a young age, from seeing Carlton Sheets commercials, and I actually worked when I was growing up. When I was in high school and college, I worked for. I grew up in the Midwest, so I worked for Menards. So people that are in the Midwest will know Menards. If you're not in the Midwest, you don't know it at all. But it's basically like the third largest behind Home Depot, Lowe's, and then Menards. And they have hundreds of stores, but primarily just in the Midwest. So anyway, I worked at Menards for several years and just was around a lot of construction and building and stuff like that, and literally had never even done anything, but just kind of being around it, I'd always had an interest in it. And there was a time, I guess even like after college, then it was like, well, I didn't do it because I didn't have money, and then when I started to have some money, then I didn't have time, and it was never just right, And so I worked for, I was blessed to, have some really incredible jobs in corporate America, which I'm never going back, but at the time I felt blessed. And I'm blessed that it opened those doors and got me where I am today. But I had a really awesome job working directly for the CEO of a Fortune, 500 company. It was kind of his apprentice, if you will, a right-hand man, and flying around the world on a private jet, and all just really, really cool stuff.
Yeah,
really
that
awesome.
Suck. That's awesome.
But I was kind of a made man in that company. I was like, the sky is the limit.
Right.
Literally, he would even position me to the board of directors of the company as saying, this guy is going to replace me as CEO when I leave in 10 years, whatever. So it's like, I'm a made man, right? I'm like, I can't go wrong here. Well, you know what happened? He got fired. And I'm the outspoken right-hand man that had no shield anymore. And so anyway, I was next, basically. And then I went to work for a startup, which was flying high. It was actually I got up to $500 million while I was there. We were flying high. It was fantastic. And 18 months after I was there, they filed for bankruptcy.
Jeez.
And so, and at that time, literally when that was happening, my wife had left her job, and she made more money than I did, quite frankly, as a consultant. And then she got pregnant with our son, who's now 8. But at the time, so she was pregnant with our son. I didn't lose my job. I actually would have been fine because they we were filing bankruptcy. They didn't go away for several years. But it was just this realization of hitting me that, hey, I'm not safe at a big company. I'm not safe at a small company. Now I went from, my wife and I, doing well, not having any real obligations, to I'm the sole breadwinner. I've got a child on the way. I don't have insurance now. Like all these kind of things. And it's like, okay, how do I take care of my family now? Because this is what I've got to do.
That's actually a good segue into another question, which is, I ask this for every single guest because sometimes they do have a story, sometimes they don't. Mike, but did you have that breaking point moment where, what you were doing before just wasn't cutting it and you wanted something more, and there's a point where you said, like, enough's enough, I really need to start my own business in real estate?
I think that was it. What happened was, actually, before I started as a real estate investor, this company that I left as a startup, I left and I simultaneously kind of partnered with them really as an affiliate. Okay. Without getting into a lot of details of what they did, I was kind of an online affiliate, and I tried that for 10 months, basically burned through, this is I had a newborn baby, so we were still making no money and basically just burning through cash. And, after 10 months, it's like, well, if I had to do over again, I could have learned everything I learned in 10 months in like 1 month, but that's just kind of how it goes, hindsight. Right. But it was just this point where, okay, do we go back into corporate America, or do we do our own thing? And even though that business failed, I knew enough to know that I wanted to work for myself. I really did not want to go work for somebody else, because at least there was certainty around me having control of my own destiny, good or bad, right? And so, that was the moment for me, was what are we going to do? And we said, we're going to go into real estate investing. So this was the summer of 2008. And the crazy thing is, what we didn't know is the market was kind of collapsing around us. Even though we said we were going to go into that, we really were naive about what was going on in the market. Now, sure, in the Dallas area, it wasn't nearly as bad as Vegas or Florida or Arizona, anywhere else. So we fared well. But what turned out, it was actually perfect timing. We had no skeletons in the closet with inventory we paid too much for. We didn't have any bad habits, yet. And the good thing is a lot of the competition in the area was just gone. I mean, they just kind of got wiped out, or they had lost access to capital, or whatever it might be. And so we came in, and quite frankly, and again, we bought the franchise because we knew we needed to ramp up quickly. Our kind of opportunity cost of doing this was pretty high, of like not going back to corporate America. So we had to ramp up quickly. So in fact, we actually bought 65 houses in our first year in Dallas, and kind of stayed at that level for a few years.
That's hustling.
Yeah, and that's the truth. I would say definitely the franchise. I'm still a coach and a mentor for HomeVestor, so I have lots of franchisees that I coach and mentor all across the country, and we're still adding people. And so I really believe in the system for sure. But I would say we were at a point, and a lot of people that are like this, where failure is not an option. It's just not an option that I'm willing to choose. And we worked hard, but made it happen.
What was a big influence for you? Was HomeVestors like you saw this and that was a big influence for you? What was the big
I would say the influence was, again, that failure wasn't an option. I mean, the system helped a lot because we didn't have to figure things out. It was a business in a box in many ways. So we kind of had a system that allowed us to climb the learning curve a lot faster.
That makes sense.
But the key influence was, I said, like, me as a primary breadwinner now, although my wife was working the business, full time, the whole time, one way or another, and just I've got to support my family. I mean, that's what it was for years. It was feast or famine. In my mind, famine wasn't an option, and so we just did our best to feast.
Out of those 65 houses or so, or even the houses now that you had, do you remember a time where you had a big real estate mistake, like a worse deal? And if you do remember that, how did you get through it?
Yeah, I'd say, we've made lots of mistakes.
One that sticks out to you?
Sure, yeah. We've made lots of mistakes, so I don't want to sound like we haven't made a lot of mistakes, but I'll say we're very conservative, and we always have been. So that probably means we missed some deals, but what it means is out of 300 plus houses we've bought, we've actually only lost money on a few, and one of them was a bad one. Yeah. So, and that was early on, but I say the key lesson for that, there really were kind of two lessons. Is one, if you get into a bad deal, you can't focus on the losing money part. You've got to focus on the time, like,
and the solution,
make that go away.
Yeah, and the solution, like how to get out of it, and the time, not focusing on the...
Yeah, I think some people kind of get paralyzed, and they're like, maybe if I do this, or maybe if I wait, or maybe if we rehab it more, or whatever. But we knew it's weird when you get to a point where you're rehabbing a house and you're going to lose money on it, and but you just gotta do what you got to do and get it done. I mean, just stopping everything is not going to make it go away, because you've got holding costs and taxes and all those things. So, there were a lot of learnings of things that we overlooked. For us at the time, it was probably the highest end house. Now, it wasn't really high end, but relative to what we were comfortable rehabbing, it was above our threshold, and What that means is, you can't cut any corners. And so there's some things, some very clear things. It was close to some power lines. It was close to a busy street. Just some things that were, in hindsight, it was silly to overlook. But, we rarely made a mistake like that again.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, one of the cool things about our show, and a lot of people have continued to kind of praise about this show when we were creating it, we're still pretty young right now, creating more episodes, is something that we call our Profit Master investing strategy. And that's where it's some type of strategy that's working well in your real estate business right now. Could you share one of those strategies is working well in your real estate investing business?
Yeah, I would say, if you're wholesaling, especially, this is going to be a little bit of a shameless plug, but I think it's really important to have access to a lot of potential buyers. I think that what some people end up in a situation where they have 5 or 10 buyers and they just keep going back to these folks. Right. The problem is I had this early on. I had one guy that I sold like 3 or 4 houses to, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, I'm a good customer. Can you knock off like 5,000?" And I'm like, 5,000? That's coming right out of my pocket. Like, how about a beer? Like, I'll buy you a beer,
5,000 or a beer?
Yeah, and so what you kind of find is if you rely on the same people over and over again, you're putting yourself at risk that one day they're not going to be interested, or that they're going to start to feel like they get this good customer discount.
Right.
And so it's really important to kind of have a large list. And one of the things that we're doing at Flipnerd.com is we actually have built the largest off-market listing platform for wholesale deals. So I looked this morning. I don't have it right in front of me right now, but we have 425 wholesale deals active listed on the site right now.
That's great.
And we're going to hit 10,000 members in the next day or two here. And so what we're seeing already is that we're getting a lot of feedback from people that are like, "Wow, I put my deal out there and I'm getting all these new buyers from out of state that I didn't even know about, and they're paying prices above what my local guys will pay." And so I think what we're trying to do is open up, and we that's what we intended to happen, and that's actually what's happening. So I would say, to kind of find the largest list of buyers you can, and selfish plug here, because you can list them on Flipnerd.com for free, no longer do people have to spend half of their time trying to build a buyer's list.
Right. No, that's good, and the exposure there is great. And I know from some of the things you've talked about on creating that site, all the effort that's been going into that, and also some of the sponsors have seen the vision that you've cast for it, and the website has been going through a lot of reiterations, and it's looking really good. So
thanks.
Kudos to you. Don't worry about
we've got some additional development coming up. Even we're just constantly trying to improve it, but
right.
Yep.
That's cool.
Awesome.
That's really cool. What's one piece of advice that you'd share about running a successful real estate business?
I would say, to treat it like a business. I think a lot of people end up
as opposed to treating it like a hobby.
Like a hobby, yeah. I think what a lot of people do is they say, "Well, I'm going to continue." I'm not saying that everybody should quit their job and cold turkey dive into this. That is what we did. But again, failure wasn't an option. We weren't willing to accept anything else. We were kind of at a transition point. So I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody kind of keeping their job and doing this on the side. But I think what some people end up doing is using that as, probably subconsciously, as my backup plan is just to stay where I'm at because I still get a steady paycheck. So what happens is you kind of half-hearted get into trying to do stuff. And real estate investing is a hard business. So as soon as it gets a little hard, or a deal falls through, or somebody does a bad buy, then they're just like, I'm just going to stay over here where it's safe, and they're kind of out. And it's like, if you give up that easily, then there's probably, nothing. I mean, you're probably going to be working for somebody else forever, because, when you kind of go out on your own, whether it's real estate investing or anything else, it takes time, it's risky, it's all those things. But once you start to treat it like a business and you get systems in place, you're building contacts and a network, surrounding yourself with people that are doing it, then it gets, I don't want to say it gets easy, because it never gets easy, but it's easier because that starts to be all you know.
Yeah, and more predictable too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree, and I think that's good. If you had to start out, and this really is nice question to that one. You've alluded to it in the beginning a bit, but maybe a little bit more focused. If you had to start over again, what would you change? And maybe this is some advice for someone starting new. I know you already said that you would kind of get that education in faster compared from 11 months to 1 month, or that time frame. But is there anything else that you would change and start over again?
I think the big thing is that I would probably collaborate with people more. Like, I think, I've talked about this a number of times on our show before with people, is that when I started, I think real estate investors fall into one of two camps, and more often than not, they're kind of a lone wolf that doesn't talk to anybody, because especially if you're in your market, when you're going to a mastermind nationally and you're talking to people all over the place, you open up a little bit more. But when you're just like in Dallas, like I'm in my market and I go to a REIA club meeting, a lot of people are kind of tight-lipped because they're like, well, everybody here's my competitor, so I'm not going to say what I'm doing. I'm not going to brag about anything. I'm not going to share anything. I'm not going to share any resources because I'm enabling them, and they might be taking food out of my family's mouth.
Right.
And it's very short-sighted, and I did that for years, so I'll take the blame for that. But I think that's a natural tendency, is to feel like everybody's your competitor. But as you know, once you kind of get to a point where you can collaborate with people and do deals together and things like that, then one, it really is a better business model, and two, just from a feeling of creating something, I guess, just from a social thing. Man, the business is a lot more fun when you're not worried about that everybody's trying to knock you out.
Yeah.
So I'd say just collaborate more with people and find ways to work with people and not kind of close yourself off, because it's a lonely business if you do that, for sure.
It is, and you can get so much more accomplished whenever you do find the synergy and it makes sense. And there's so many other people out there that are also looking for someone just like you that can help them. You guys scratch each other's backs.
Yeah.
I really like that. We tend to be, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times, lone rangers.
Yep.
And feel like the weight's on all completely on our shoulders. But at the end of the day, other people feel that way too, and they want to help. And bottom line is, we have gifts and talents that they may not have, and likewise.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. What's your favorite motivational quote or business quote?
Yeah, I had to look this one up because I know you asked to share this, and we actually maintain a list of quotes that I like or that we use for social media or different things, and so I thought this was a great one because it's kind of what we talked about here about not letting failure be an option. So this is a quote by Babe Ruth that says, he said, "It's hard to beat a person who never gives up."
I love that.
And I think there's a lot of people that just give up too early in this business, or they just bow out. And everything that I've achieved, I would say, in our businesses so far has absolutely been from persistence. And I think it's important in this business to just never give up. So
I think that is sound advice. What books do you recommend, or maybe is there one that you can think of that really rocked your world?
Yeah, like you, I'm a ferocious reader. I read stuff all the time. So, I was thinking about this a little bit beforehand, and I think I always have to come back to Think and Grow Rich, because I think, as we talked about the importance of persistence, but another really important part of this business and life really is mindset, right? It's just like knowing that you can achieve it and finding ways to, whether it's saying affirmations or think about your goals all the time. And I think that, it's a book that a lot of people have read, so I don't have anything that's like crazy, like, oh, I've never heard of that one, I need to grab it. But if you haven't read that book, for those listening, I mean, it's a great book. It's an oldie but a goodie. But I think, this business messes with your mind more than anything, because it's a roller coaster. Because it's not like we're selling tacos and sales are up or down 3 or 5% every day. It's like sales are up or down like hundreds of percent every day, right? It's just like nothing, boop, nothing, and it really can mess with you. So I think you got to be sound mindset wise.
I think that's great, and even though that book has been touted out there as one of a great book to read and learn from. He has several books. You're talking about the author, Think of Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
And I've read several of his books as well. There is another book I was looking up on Amazon because I haven't read it in a while that I was going to tell you to check out as well. And I think it is. I don't know. I'm not finding it here. Maybe it's the Law of Success. I think it's called The Law of Success in 16 Lessons.
Oh, cool, yeah. I had a guy, Greg Reed. I don't know if you know Greg Reed. I had Greg Reed on my show a couple weeks ago, and he basically is kind of the main guy that's responsible for writing for the Napoleon Hill, I believe it's called the Napoleon Hill Institute,
awesome.
And our foundation. And so he was on the show recently, a couple weeks ago, and he writes the books that go under the Napoleon Hill Institute now. So he's got one that you may have read or a lot of people know, and kind of back to this persistence, it's called 3 Feet from Gold.
Sure.
Yeah, so, people, basically the analogy is, there's a lot of people that are digging, nothing happens, and they go somewhere else and dig, but they were kind of right about to strike gold if they had just stayed persistent and stayed with it. So that's a good one to check out too.
Yeah, I think they also have Outwitting the Devil too, which is by Napoleon Hill. There's a lot of great books. If you just
absolutely.
Go to Amazon and type in Napoleon Hill, you'll find
Oh, yeah.
several. 3 Feet from Gold is an amazing book. That's really motivational to keep you going. If you're you're getting so frustrated, you just want to quit. That book is awesome for that. What's a favorite mobile app you use every day?
Mobile app. How many apps do you have on your phone, Corey?
I have too many, but I used to own an app business, so I'm still involved in an app business, but I'm not in the other side. But I don't even want to tell you how many I have.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You're such a kind of bleeding edge guy with apps. I had to ask that. And I'm the same way. I've got a ton of apps on my phone that I forgot I even had, and then you've got a couple that you use all the time.
Right.
It's just kind of a general app. Whether it's on my phone or, of course, we use a web app too, but Asana. We use Asana, which is a task management tool. There's a million of task management tools. So,
that's a great one.
I think it's important to have a task management tool, but we use Asana. So I effectively have 4 businesses now, and we use it for everything. We use it for outside web developers. We can invite people. We use it for our coaching business. We use it for everything, and we have
use that mobile app Asana for it.
Yeah, so we use the mobile app. I use the web app more than anything, like on my PC or on my Mac. But it allows me to kind of access it from anywhere, which most of the task management apps do. But I think we've used a lot of them, and we really have kind of gone all in on Asana as a great way to just kind of manage what you do over and over again. And kind of one thing that I'll say for real estate investors is, whether you use Asana or something else, use something. But you can create, what you want is a tool that you can create task templates, and where you have a template of something you do over and over again. So, for example, when we buy a house, if we're going to rehab it, there's essentially the same list of tasks. It's not like real detailed on the rehab, but it's like put a lockbox on the door to take a lockbox off the door, and everything in between. Turn utilities on, turn utilities off, send insurance up, turn insurance off, get all the documents, approve the HUD. It's the same thing. It's literally like 100 tasks that are the same every single time. And so if you can create a task template, so we have these templates that are like the rehab template, and we can copy that template, and I'm going to name it 123 Main Street for the house I just bought. And not only are those tasks in there, they're already pre-assigned to people on my team that have those tasks, and they pop up into their inbox, and they know I need to get these things done. And so just some way to kind of simplify this business, because it's very much a business of lists of tasks that are the same type of thing you do over and over and over again.
I love that. I love Asana's great. I've used Asana, Trello. Trello. I use Todoist for a lot of the to-do things.
Yeah.
And also use Podio to run the real estate business. But just to give you a little idea, look at this. Each one of these have 9 in there, and then if you open up each one of them
says it has 60.
They actually have more and more and more. So I think the last count it was 480 apps that are on the phone, but a lot of those were testing out apps from the other company.
Yeah.
Do you have a morning routine?
I'm working on that. I would say, it's there's definitely part of my problem is I'm a night owl, so I tend to work late.
Yes.
And I'm like, I need to go to bed earlier so I can get up early and work out. And
no one else is like that. That's just you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm the only one. I'm kind of running more of the Gary Vaynerchuk model, where I'm trying to figure out how to get more than 24 hours in a day and just working forever. And people are like, "What are you emailing me at like 2 a.m.? What are you doing?" It's like, I don't know. I just thought of something. And so anyway, I'm working on for as much as I talk about it, I definitely am not the poster child for how to live this ultra balanced life, but it's something that I think about all the time and I aspire to, and I'll get there.
So right now you're still working on it. You're still working on kind of putting together that template for your morning.
Yeah, it's just it's easy. It's easy for me to make excuses. I have to take my son to school. I have to do certain things, and so. And again, the night thing is the big thing for me. I have a hard time going to bed until I'm so exhausted that I can't stay up anymore. But I would say I know it's important. I know it's important to really kind of plan your day. And I notice, oddly enough, I wake up earlier on the weekends than I do during the week. I don't know what the deal is with that. But sometimes I just go on a long walk. I'll just go for an hour and a half walk in my neighborhood and just kind of walk all over with some headphones, kind of jamming out. And I come back and I'm so energized for the day. I've thought through, I've kind of just processed things instead of I got to get up and run because I've got a meeting in 45 minutes and I need to do this. And, and so I notice the value of that on the weekends. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to adopt it into my weekdays yet, but I'm committed to it though.
That's cool. Well, I mean, and that's just where you are right now, then that's where you are. Some people have a really regimented type of morning routine. Other people are just kind of, they just kind of go with the flow. There's no right or wrong. I do think that once you have something that's a little bit more, like you said, the template, obviously you're going to get more efficiency out of it.
Sure.
Because you're looking forward to it, and it's like going to the gym every morning. You're looking forward to it. So what is a great lesson that you've learned to help you get to where you are today? We have a few more questions here. I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, I would say I think it's easy for a lot of real estate investors to try to do everything themselves. And when you start off, a lot of people, that maybe not have a lot of money, they don't really know what they don't know yet, and so you tend to kind of do everything. But I think it's really important to kind of document what you're good at and what you're not good at. What are all the tasks you have to do in a day? And because then what you can start to do is identify what you're not good at or what you hate, and then as you grow, you can start to layer in people to help with those things. And so even as I said, our companies do well. We've got 4 businesses and stuff, but it's not uncommon for me to take out the trash or do whatever. I mean, it's the life of an entrepreneur. I'm the chief bottle washer amongst everything else, right? But I think you can start to identify what you're good at and what you're not good at, and if you can get out of that mindset of, well, I can't afford somebody because I'm just gonna have to keep doing what I'm not good at.
Right.
It's but you have to look at the opportunity cost. So what is that costing you to do something that you're not good at, where you could bring somebody in that is sales is an obvious one. If you're not good at sales and you're in real estate, you need to find somebody that is, because that's going to destroy you, right? What is that going to cost you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Right.
And that's a good one. What are you grateful for right now?
Man, I'm grateful for so much. I would say, just generally speaking, this is something I think a lot about, because I see a lot of people that are struggling, and I feel so blessed to have so much opportunity. And I don't, sometimes it's a burden because I have shiny object syndrome. So I'm like, wow, I can go do this, I can go do that, and my wife does a great job of trying to rein me in.
Let's go start a golf business.
Yeah.
It's what do we do? We're in the real estate business.
Yeah. But it's just, there is so much opportunity in the world, and I would say that I've made some decisions that have kind of opened those up for me by joining certain groups, or things like my show where I get to meet a lot of people. But I would say that there's nothing that I've done that anybody else couldn't do. So I think that for a lot of folks that are out there that feel like they're struggling or whatever, there's really probably opportunity all around you, and you just have to open up your eyes to see it, I think.
Yeah, common knowledge isn't necessarily common practice, and there's no shortage of opportunity if you open your eyes. What point would you recommend hiring a mentor, and how important has that been in your success?
Oh, yeah, good question. Well, I would say, so again, early on, we bought a franchise. So at the time, it wasn't a formal mentor program, but I had the system to kind of rely on, and people at HomeVestors that could help the system has really changed now to where there is a mentor, somebody like me that you work with on a go forward basis. But so I think right away is probably the best time. I think because that's the hardest time in this business. And I'm not saying that it ever gets easy, easy for air quotes here, but it's such a delicate time to build that confidence. Confidence is such a key role in being successful in this business early on, because it's easy to give up, like we talked about earlier. So I really think if you kind of have that person that's there, that, there's so many people that it's like the dog chasing a truck, right? It's like you get a deal and you're like, oh no, you kind of like, what am I going to do now? I don't even know what to do. It's like the best thing that could happen just happened to you, but you're scared to death of it,
Right.
And so I think to have people there that you can talk to and say, what do I do, is important early on.
Yeah, it is. It's crucial. And whenever you don't know what you don't know, right? In the beginning, It's just you want to make all that, you want to fall down and all of that. And then you look back and you go, if I would have just hired a coach or hired someone as a mentor, it would have helped me out. Let me ask you, this is one of my favorite questions, because I think it's not something we think about. I know as myself, sometimes we just get excited and do. We just go out there and just take action and do. And we stop, we don't forget it, we don't think about the why. So if you had to summarize why you do what you do, what would be the answer?
Wow. I'd say I think that's something that changes over time too. I mean, I would say early on, it was for my family. It was, I had to support my family. It wasn't something as altruistic as you might think otherwise. It was like, I've got to survive, and we were never, we were, like I said, we came from the corporate world. We had done well. We were able to build up some savings. So we were never like living in our car, like, some guys we know even, right, that had to like eventually, be successful. And there's nothing, those stories are fantastic. I love those. So I don't want to say this was like a rags to riches thing, but we were at a very delicate time at a point. So at that point, it was survival. It was, I've got to provide for my family. I would say, and those things still exist, but we're just kind of blessed to not have to worry about those things really much at all anymore. I would say now, I think we do what we do to make a difference. I mean, I'm trying to build some epic stuff that nobody's really done before, and part of it is there's to leave a kind of a footprint on this industry, and some of it is I know what real estate investing can do for people, from financial freedom to just kind of being able to be self-sufficient. I mean, I'm really big on being self-sufficient and independent and not being over reliant upon working for somebody else, let's say, for those that are entrepreneurially minded. So I think for me at this point, it's really to build something that can make a positive impact on the lives of others. Yep. I've
never heard of dissecting it, that it's different at different stages in your life. And I think that's really prolific in a way. Like,
it's deep.
It is deep.
We're getting deep, Corey.
Yeah, we got a little bit deep there. It's interesting because you also said you didn't live in your car. I was thinking about who lived in their car. This UFC woman champion right now. Her name's Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
Heard about her. She lived in her car.
Really? Wow.
Right, and now she's the UFC women's champion. Right, and so there's sometimes those moments where it's like you get to a place you're just so kind of low, and then all you have is just to look forward to just everything's above. And then there's other times where you're doing okay, and then you're just kind of like, man, if I make that decision, I could fall, but I could go up, I could go up further. And having the bigger why than just, I think some people just say, it's just make money, but most of the time it's something deeper than that, which is a respect or fight or flight, or just I felt like I had to do it. So I really like how you dissected that up, Mike. That's really interesting.
I did that for you, Corey.
Well, here's a way that I want to help you as much as possible. Also being just a cool mastermind member in the Collective Genius. Love to getting to know you more, and really proud of everything that you've done. I've seen some incredible things. And I know Flipnerd is just going to continue to be, I feel like, just going out of the stratosphere. You're doing a lot of good things. We've talked about it, and it's growing quickly. What's the way that my audience can serve you? How's the best way to get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I would say, and if you're listening to this and you haven't joined flipnerd.com yet, you can join for free in about 60 seconds. It's you get access to literally almost 500 wholesale deals. And we've only been live for 4 months. We have 10,000. We're about to hit 10,000 members probably this weekend. And so I would say, you want to be a part of this community. We're really kind of building this in a way to where we're really trying to impact the lives of others. There is a business side of it. We have to kind of build this business that it makes sense so we can sustain it for sure. But I'll tell you, we think every day about how to change, how to build things that impact people's lives. And so I'd love for people to be a part of it. So you could find me on there, and Facebook and LinkedIn are some obvious places, especially Facebook. Those are the best ways. And if it's okay, I'll say one other thing is that we actually have kind of in line with all the stuff we're doing at Flipnerd. We actually are about to open the gates probably in the next couple of days here. So by the time you're listening to this, they're probably open for a very large real estate virtual summit that we're pulling off that we're having, Corey, the REI Power Summit, reipowersummit.com. And we have over 50 committed speakers so far. So some really big names, awesome people that are really going to, we're not focused on any sales at all. So it's going to be very educational. And the thing is, it's a 9-day event, and we're going to give people access to it for 12 months. So unlike live events where there's like 10 speakers at the same time and you can only listen to one of them and you, by definition, are never going to hear 9, you'll be able to choose those people as we launch them, but you'll have access to everything for a year. So we're really trying to do something kind of big and epic here. And reipowersummit.com and flipnerd.com.
That's great. Well, Mike, thank you for taking the time to be on
Thanks,
here.
Corey.
I also will tell you to check out Flipnerd site. It's really fantastic. Check out Mike's podcast as well. He has some amazing guests, many of the same ones that we'll have on here because we're in the same circles. And, it's just incredible to be a part of real estate investing. So I appreciate you taking the time to be on our
Absolutely, Corey.
our Profit Masters podcast. Make sure, listener, that you are on the next one. And remember always to be a servant, just like Mike is a servant leader, and it's the way that you can get the most fulfillment out of your life. So thanks again, Mike.
Thanks, Corey.
All right, talk to you later.
See you, buddy.
Bye now.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.